Welcome to the Aussie Game podcast, where we talk all things Australian football. The Matildas are just one win away from winning their second Asian Cup after a mature 2-1 win over China. Awaiting them in the final is Japan, who have been ruthless throughout the tournament and will be a very tricky prospect for the Matildas. Also, we'll run our eye over Tony Popovic's Socceroos squad with some surprise inclusions and exclusions as well for their upcoming FIFA series. Plus, one of our young talents is promoted to the Eredivisie. Maty Ryan's heartbreak. Watford tear up the Hollywood script. Melbourne City men get a win over Sydney SC, whose Ufuk Talay has been linked to the Wanderers, while the A-League women's top two go head-to-head. And we've got some great questions from our listeners. Plenty to unpack tonight, Mopper.
What a night, and well done to the Tillies. They're in the final. I can't wait. I've got my tickets and they're excited. And the GOAT, Chief, got us home. She is an absolute GOAT. Sam Kerr, what a winner. And I must say, I thought Caitlin Ford's performance was the best on the night. I thought she was outstanding. And she's had a great tournament as well. So it was a great performance by the Matildas. There's some still opportunities. And yes, you're right. We are going to have to be absolutely at our peak. I'll talk you through some of the stats where we've played Japan before. And yeah, they are a absolute superpower in women's football. But we're at home and we've got the whole country behind us. And there's no better place than in Sydney to have the final and a packed out crowd. And hopefully we can get over the line and get the Tillies home for an Asian Cup win.
Absolutely, mate. And look, at the start of the tournament, this is where we would have wanted to be, in the final, playing whoever we needed to play for a chance to lift that silverware. So credit to the Tillies, who have done the job. Hasn't been perfect by any means, but they've done what they needed to do. And they are now in the final, as I said in the intro, with one game to go before they lift that silverware, hopefully on Saturday night. Let's go back to the game, though, the semi-final. The Matildas beat China 2-1 in front of 35,170 fans in Perth. Two changes to the starting lineup, with Steph Catley coming in at centre-back, which we spoke about on the Sunday pod. And finally, Kyra Cooney-Cross playing in the six. Was this a better balance for the midfield and for the team as a whole?
Yeah, I think so. I've been stating ever since the tournament started that Catley had to be in the central defence, and she was paired up with Hunt. They were under a lot of pressure, though, those two, and didn't look cohesive, but I think that was due to China's pressure and physical presence, and KCC was a must. If we're going to go through and qualify and get into that final, KCC is just a step above, and yeah, it just provided a bit more balance, and yeah, still not convinced Gorry in the 10 is helping us create. I love her work rate and her ability. She showed in good moments on the ball, but I just think in the 8 and 6 she's much better suited and a little bit more creativity. We need to feed Kerr and Ford more, and we're going to have to. But yeah, we've still got, I think, a little bit of opportunity there. But yeah, look, I think Catley's going to have to be at central defence in the final. And yeah, I think it'll be very interesting. I think probably similar midfield mix. I don't think you'll see many changes to the final for this side. He's probably played his cards, Joe, and I think this is what we're looking at. Yeah, and we'll see if it's good enough to beat Japan.
Yeah, KCC was amazing in that midfield. Just her ability to turn and create something, with her back to goal, and a few times, just having not seen her play for a little while, thought she might get caught on the ball, but just her ability to burst away from defenders and either drive forward herself with her dribbling or to spray balls into feed or out wide, just created so much for us, and I think took a bit of pressure off Alana Kennedy in that sense as well, not needing to create so much, and I think it was a good balance. Just a question on Gorry in the 10. Just thinking tactically what Joe is trying to achieve with Gorry, and I was thinking that, is she in there in order for that work rate that we know she has, but to relieve a bit of the pressure on Sam Kerr so that she doesn't have to press so much and she can stay a little bit higher up the field. Do you think what he's thinking is? Because she definitely doesn't have the creativity of some of the other players, but just trying to understand what Joe's thinking there.
High press, I think you nailed it, is obviously the key reason, yeah, and absolutely to keep Kurt right in at the top of the point there. I think you've absolutely nailed it in your comments, and yeah, she is a pressing machine. The only offset is, and she can defensive cover also too in that back, and you've seen Evan Kennedy drop back in the back three almost there, saved us, I think, in with a great block. That's what that provides us. But yeah, Gory's work rate is sensational, but yeah, it just counteracts our ability to counter. I think creativity wise, I got no doubt she can pass the ball, but to create something like a Mary Fowler, but yeah, that's the big one. The hard one is we said we match up against China a lot better because of physicality, which we did. They were pretty tough, China. They were a hard one to crack down, and we took some knocks to against that side. But the challenge is now we have to, how do we counteract speed? Because this is the same problem we had against Korea Republic and South Korea, and you're going to tenfold your speed now because Japan's ball movement is just second to none. It's on another level. So it's going to be very interesting tactically how we set up. I don't know if you can press Japan into submission because I think they're just too good technically. But yeah, I've got some early thoughts on that one. Yeah, I look at Japan too. We'll break them down in a minute. But yeah, I think going back to your question, I think Gory's press is just the key reason why she's there.
And then second half, we saw Claire Hunt come off and Winona Heatley come on the field. That was obviously a tactical change there. Claire Hunt, you'd have to say, played a part in the goal that China scored through the penalty. But Winona Heatley, we know, has got that great passing range, and she did show that off a fair bit in that second half that she played. But we will get to the Japan team in a sec. But do you think what combination do you feel is best for the Matildas there?
I am going to say Charlie Rule, but I don't look, Claire Hunt, she didn't have the strongest of game, but she was still pretty solid. I know she gave away that opportunity, that fortuitous bounce, off her head, just went the wrong way, didn't it? She was a bit unlucky, and I think it knocked her confidence more than anything. But China applied the pressure, and they really put them under. Catley as well, like they really were put under immense pressure. So yeah, physically. So it's going to be interesting, because we're not looking at that same type of prototype. We're talking about Japan, who's going to move the football and put intelligent balls in the space and really use their technique. So it's both. Catley definitely for versatility in the central defence will make a difference. Whether he goes with Hunt or Heatley, I think it's a luxury to have. I'm just not sure they've got enough pace to handle it. That's all. I know physically they can, which will be an advantage for us. But yeah, I don't know. I think Charlie Rule's just, but I know he's not going to play Charlie Rule. But yeah, I just think she's the type of player. Might even, I'm a bit worried actually about it, and that's why I think Charlie Rule even. But I know that's not going to happen, so I just got to get back to reality. And yeah, I got no doubt Hunt will probably start. Heatley, luxury to come off the bench, isn't she? And yeah, we probably should have tried this earlier with Catley in central defence, but unfortunately we didn't. So yeah, we'll just have to watch and see.
Well, as I said, we are where we needed to be at the start of the tournament. So yeah, let's take that and just kind of move forward. But let's go into the goals, mate. The first one for the Matildas came down that right side that you spoke about on Sunday night, in terms of we haven't really released particularly Carpenter down that side. I think it was a touch from Gorry into Fowler, who played the ball out to Carpenter, and then she burst down the wing, held the ball up, played the ball into space for Mary Fowler, who very intelligently cut that ball back onto about the penalty spot. Not sure if she saw forwards run or just put it into that space, but intelligent run from Caitlin Ford as well, and just hammered that one home. So we haven't seen a lot of that free-flowing football from the Matildas throughout the tournament. So very good to see on this occasion.
Oh, it's great football, wasn't it? That's just exactly what we want. In the feet and Fowler picking up the ball, cutting inside and just opening that right-hand side for Carpenter. I've been begging for this to happen, for Carpenter to just have that area to herself. I think it hasn't worked when we've doubled up out there and tried to come in and cross it. That's her space, that's her forte, that's her strength. Give it to her all day. We don't need Fowler hanging out on the right. And the first 20, 25 minutes, Fowler was cutting in and she was picking up the ball outside the 18, very direct, which is exactly where we need Mary Fowler. And it paid dividends because not only did she pick the ball up inside China's half, she was able to put a nice diagonal ball into Carpenter, and that's where we want to see Carpenter. And I think from Carpenter's point of view, that confidence, that composure was there, and she's had a few moments this tournament, but that composure just put that simple ball into Fowler. Maybe it was the trust or the confidence in Fowler. And who else do you want with the ball at their feet inside the box? And Radar Fowler picks out Ford, who's just unbelievable. Those runs, he just loves those runs. And yeah, great goal. Best football we've seen from the Matildas, and good setup, I thought, all tournament.
I was going to mention that as well because, yeah, there were a couple of occasions there where Fowler cut inside and had shots on her left foot. One went straight to the keeper, and another one I think was blocked. But shows that intent, and if she's coming inside, that does mean that the space is out there for Ellie Carpenter as well. The China goal obviously came through the penalty. As you said, unfortunate kind of mistake there from Claire Hunt, which led the ball through. The China attacker got around Mackenzie Arnold, looked like a penalty to start with. Arnold was pretty adamant that she didn't get a touch. On one angle, it looked like it was a bit of a dive. And then the second one, she definitely didn't collect it with her hands, but I think that's a penalty. And one of those ones where if it's given, it's not going to be overturned because it's not clear and obvious error.
Yeah, look, strikers lean in for that contact. They're professionals. They know what to do to get it. That's what happened. And yeah, unfortunately, Mackenzie Arnold couldn't retreat in time, or she tried to pull back, but it's too late. And yeah, striker drew contact with her, and that's all you need, even though it was faint. Once the referee blew it, yeah, we're gone. Yeah, and if it wasn't blown and it went to VAR, then I think VAR would have gone with a no pen. But when you go to penalty first, and it was never going to be overturned, it would have been too controversial. And very debatable. Being at Matildas at home, but anyway, they dispatched it. It was 1-1, and we had our work to do again.
Yep, so 1-1 at halftime. And then, the second half, we saw another great piece of brilliance, kind of on the counter-attack again. It was really Torpy's Endeavour who threw herself into a tackle, chasing the ball down from left back, and got a toe through to Sam Kerr, who fed the ball out wide to Caitlin Ford. And how many times have we seen that combination between those two superstars? And Ford just timed her pass so well for Kerr to run onto, rounded the keeper, and from an impossible angle on her weaker foot, Sam Kerr's just slid that one in. Just shows how much class that she's got, and she's really, really back in form. That's 4 goals for the whole tournament now for Sam Kerr, and she's really showing her worth on the back of not many minutes. But what a goal this one was, mate.
Well, it was just, again, beautiful football, wasn't it? The Ford and Kerr combination, it's the GOAT of this. They're both GOATs as far as I'm concerned. It was just, when they've got the ball at their feet and when they're feeding each other, we just look so good. And yeah, just the quality from Arsenal and Chelsea there was just shown, the experience. And yeah, she's really put on a show, hasn't she, Kerr? And she's really enjoyed this tournament. And it's like she's demanding every minute of this tournament too. Yeah, you can just, like, we're talking about whether to save her and rotate her, but she just wants to be there. She wants to be every moment. She wants to lead this side, and she's definitely setting the example. And when you have a player like that and she gets those opportunities, we've seen it in how many big games now for her career. That's why I call her the GOAT, and she will go down in history. And hopefully we can give her one or two moments on Saturday night.
Absolutely, mate. She did mention to Joe Montemurro in second half stoppage time that she was absolutely done. So she completely drained the tank on Tuesday night. But yeah, what a performance from Sam Kerr. Just want to mention Caitlin Torpey. I thought she was magnificent again. Provided so much energy. Yeah, played a big part in that second goal as well. And I think, as we start to think about Steph Catley coming into left centre back, really that left back spot kind of opens up, doesn't it? And Caitlin Torpey is really putting her hand up over these last couple of games. No doubt for me that she starts in the final based on her past performances. And I think she's 25, 26, so very much a long-term prospect at the left back spot for the Matildas.
Yeah, she's doing well. She had a couple of shaky moments in defence, but yeah, we'd like to see her get on the ball a bit more, make more of those runs, but it was very difficult. The physicality of China, a couple of our girls really took a toll, but it was great to see her respond. She had a couple of nervous touches in that first half, but her response in the second half, I thought the second half performance was really good. I thought the first half was a bit shaky, but yeah, her second half performance was sensational. And she is so much better when she's going forward, isn't she? And she is kind of like an attacking left-sided player. She's not just a natural left back, so she can offer that going forward as well. Just want to see a little bit more of it, and whether she's been told to sit or not, but I think it's because obviously you got Carpenter bombing on. So yeah, she's got to probably try to play that second fiddle, but she's definitely got the same attacking weapons of Carpenter on the other side as well.
Yeah, definitely, mate. I thought the Matildas managed the game so much better than they did against North Korea. Just the way that the last 10 minutes or so of normal time, they just kept that ball in the corner and they played smart. They tried to retain possession and they slowed down the throw-ins. All these things that, the higher class professional teams do. And they just did it so well, I thought. And it really took the sting out of China. China were quite threatening, but probably not in that last 15 minutes or so. And yeah, the Matildas just played that really well, I thought, and I think they learned a lot from that game against North Korea.
I thought the subs were crucial. Yeah, a lot better. Like Charlie Rule coming on, and players like that were just very solid. And yeah, I just thought it was the right tactical subs. Like they're a bit more defensive players, no doubt. Wheeler coming on, but it just provided those type of players that physical, love it, tough, can hold on to the ball, can slow it down. I thought they were a lot better decisions. And then than what we did the other night. I thought we had the security behind us this time, especially with Charlie Rule, Heatley all together locking in. I thought it was brilliant, and it just suffocated China. And they didn't even create. They couldn't even create anything, and we just blocked them out. It was brilliant.
All right, mate, let's go on to some questions from our listeners, and they are the big questions. First one from Hannah: how are the Tillies beating Japan? They can do it, just want to know how. And the second one from Noel is: what is the best Matildas lineup to face Japan in your view? I'll leave this one to you, mate. You can go first.
Well, Hannah, it's great to hear from you first. And yeah, we know they can do it. The best thing we've got is the home crowd, and we'll be absolutely pumped in front of our home fans to do this. And it's going to be massive. The challenge that we got is how do we play Japan? And it's going to be very difficult because I was looking back at the past a little bit with this one, and like Japan beat Spain, the World Cup champions, in the World Cup when they were here 4-0. And I couldn't believe it. I thought, wow, they beat Spain 4-0. It's just reminiscing of the World Cup. And then I thought, they got knocked out by Sweden. So I was looking at Sweden's side and I'm thinking, how did Sweden set up to try to beat them in that quarterfinal? They had two, and Sweden won 2-1. And it was kind of using some of the assets that we've got. We've got some really good physical players that can play that, and so does Sweden. So I thought, we've got the right prototypes, but now how do we fit in the jigsaw? Then I look back at our history. When did we play Japan? Last year, on 21st of February, we played them. We got pumped 4-0. A similar side, only really Kerr missing. Everyone else was pretty much there. They had 18 shots. We only had one, and we had one of our better sides. So you've seen what they did. If they've done all tournament, they dominate the ball. They're technically fantastic. So here I go, Hannah. This is my suggestion. I'm not sure if it's going to play out like that because I don't think we've beaten Japan since 2018. Well, I think we beat them 2-0. 2021, we lost to them 1-0. So it's going to be our biggest test in the last probably 4 years. So I think we should go to a back three to start with. And I'll tell you why. When I looked at the way Sweden played and how they try to counteract them, and it's quite similar setup, they just pushed the third defender or the six in blocking that 10 to try to not turn and try to cut it down. And I think we've got the three centre backs to do it, whether that's Heatley, Hunt, Catley, or they put in Charlie Rule, which I think would be a great addition if they want to shut this down. They've got to stop that 10 from turning and creating that space. They're just cutting through teams and they're going to be quick and their ball movement is fantastic. So I think a back three. Why is that an advantage to us? Because Carpenter plays in a back three and it'll suit her. It'll suit Torpy even more because she's a wider player. And I think having Carpenter and Torpy cover those spaces too, and they've got pace. Unlike probably the centre backs, they've got pace to probably cover that. And if the third centre back can push into that six, it'll just allow that the 2 8s or the two, depends how he sets up obviously, to be high in that higher line, stopping Japan turning and playing those lines and playing through them. And then that, I know it's a little bit more defensive, that back three, but I think if we're going to stop them, I think we need to look at this tactic because I think it's the only way we can break them down without that counter attack that they do. The other one is trying to get like Gori or someone, the 10, to try to stop that 6 from Japan playing so quick. We need like that press. Maybe this is a pre-rehearsal. Maybe that's why Gori's there. Maybe they've been practicing it, Chief, shutting down that 6 and getting the ball out quick because Gori has been doing this and we're wondering why. Maybe it's for this big moment. So maybe that will work for us because if we're going to stop Japan, we have to stop that transition because they will play good football and they will have a lot of possession in this game and we're not going to have many chances, but we've shown that we can finish with 1 or 2 chances, which is, I think that's probably all we're going to get. I don't see going to see Australia have too much of the football, and we've got to understand that, and that's okay. But we've got to have at least enough. But to stop them on the transition is going to be absolutely crucial to win the game. If we can stop them in transition, we can beat them physically. I watched Sweden, the 4 or 5 target players, they put it in the box, they unsettled Japan and they got the second ball and that's how they beat them in the quarterfinal. I think it's a prototype that we should try to copy. I hope Joe's looked at that game because there's definitely moments in that game where they really targeted Japan's size. And I think with the bodies that we've got in there at the back end, at the top end, I definitely think it's an option. It is going to be difficult though. This team is elite and they can play out and they play through and they can play around. Like I said, they beat the world champions 4-0 in the World Cup group stage. So they're ready for anything. They're well set up and I think it's our only way to go to a back three. I don't think we will. I don't know if Joe's thinking the way I am, but Chief, I dead set think we have to got to go to a back three with this. And with Catley coming inside left and maybe Hunt and Heatley or Rule, I think it actually could stop the 10 from turning and getting in behind us.
Yeah, very interesting thoughts there, mate. So I suppose in that way, it's going to be a 5-4-1 in defence and a 3-4-3 in attack. So let's go to Noel's part of the question. So what's the Matildas' best lineup to face Japan in our view? So let's go through it then, mate. So Mackenzie Arnold in goals and Ellie Carpenter right back and Caitlin Torpy left back. We're going to lock those ones in. Yep. Steph Catley will be our left centre back. And then can I throw, would Alana Kennedy go into the middle of those 3 in the centre backs?
Possibly. We need speed in the middle. And probably Kennedy hasn't got the most pace. And I know she's been fantastic. And it would be a huge risk and gamble to do this, I know. But I tell you what, Kennedy back there with Catley and that, we need experience. we can't get caught in that middle. We just got to look at players that can match that pace around that middle. I think we'd be silly to put in a higher hybrid type of six. What the counter argument to that is, well, if we want a body in the box at the other end, then Kennedy's probably the prototype that we need at the other end. So that's why, mate, I think I trust Rule, I trust Hunt, I trust Heatley, I trust two of them to go in there with Catley, and I still would keep Kennedy in there because I think on transition, I think coming in late has been her strength in this tournament. And I think she can unsettle Japan in that final third if she can get high enough with Cooney Cross and Gorry either covering or vice versa, if that's how they go. It's the only way I can see us beating them. I just can't see us any other way. If we set up the way we have been in this tournament, I don't think we can get past them with that midfield. And that's been exposed against Korea. And you've seen how Korea just got absolutely exposed themselves. There's a massive golfing class in there. That midfield's world class. And yeah, he seriously has to be thinking about throwing this tactic out there. Might be just Mopper's out there theory, but I'm telling you now, unless you stop that 6 and 10, we're going to be in a lot of trouble.
Okay, so let's say it's Claire Hunt and Winona Heatley in the right centre back positions in your back five. So then who plays alongside Kennedy? I mean, the six, is it Cooney Cross? Is it Gorry?
Cooney Cross.
Okay, that was quick. And then so I suppose we're going with our usual front three then of Caleb Ford, Sam Kerr, and Mary Fowler.
Yep, and they're going to have to play more direct. When we lose the ball, we're going to have to close down that middle quicker. We need to get Japan going wider, earlier, so we can squeeze them up. There's another way of doing it against Japan. We can't let them play through the middle. We've got to push them in and out. And if we keep pushing in and pushing them out to go wider first, then we can at least close them down with a press. And or they won't be able to break as quick. We just can't let them play through that middle, and we've got to really block it up. And if we do that, I think we're a chance of counter attacking, because then you can use Fowler and Ford from those starting positions. But I really think we should be very narrow in this game if we're going to beat Japan, and then let Carpenter and Torpy control that wide space. I don't want to see Ford even out there. I want to see Ford in the channel. That's the only way I can see. And it was very similar to what Sweden did. They're a direct type of approach.
All right, mate. Exciting that we're going to look forward to Saturday night. The Matildas taking on Japan in Sydney. Should be a massive crowd out there. Hopefully we can get it to capacity, and that big crowd can cheer the Matildas home. I think in the last couple of games, you've probably only had a handful of chances, and it's what we would expect coming from this game. So most important thing is to stick solid. That fourth goal that Japan scored against the Korea Republic was absolutely terrifying, the way that they got the ball in their back third and then played through so quickly and got that goal in the counter-attack. So we certainly can't let that happen. We've got to be defensively solid, but then take our opportunities on the break or on set pieces, I would suggest.
Yeah, as long as we don't go deep, we can't go deep. We've got to be like that midfield's going to be right on the line. We've got to be right. They'll be tight as anything, because we don't want them to turn. So that's why I want the back three in there. But look, it may be a wild theory, but unless we defend narrow and play narrow, if they open up the spaces, then we're going to be in a lot of trouble. So the easiest way to do it is shut it down. So I don't think Joe will go deep and low block that way, and I hope he doesn't, because I think it'll make it very hard for us to transition back out. So let's hope Joe's tactically thought this through, and he's probably found many more ways than what I have. I just think the best way, and sides that, because Japan's even beat America in the last 12 months, so is going to be tough. But the great thing is, Hannah and Noel, that we're at home. And when you have a home crowd and you have all that mentality and momentum, it can be quite daunting, I think, for Japan, because I think, we're gonna have the Matildas there wanting this so bad, and sometimes that's all finals come down to. It doesn't come down to the pretty football that Japan's been playing, because when it comes to pressure, they tend to play a bit slower in finals, and that will be an advantage for us. So they won't want to make mistakes either. So hopefully that whole intensity of the crowd can bring on the pressure, and then we can just take our moments. And we've got the players to do it. We've got forward Kerr, we've got Fowler. If Fowler can, create something, we have the blue chip players to get over this side. It's going to be hell of exciting. I think this is going to go right down to the wire, maybe in extra time, because both these sides are world class, and it's going to be a great game to watch. Yeah, I'm tipping this will be one of the highest viewed in Australian sport. I reckon how exciting this one will be for Australia.
All right, Melbourne, our next question is from Ed, who's asked, can Sam Kerr come and play for the men's team? So let's move on to the Socceroos squad. Great question, Ed, and I'm sure she wouldn't be out of place at the top of the line for the Socceroos. But Tony Popovic has announced his squad for the upcoming FIFA series with games against Cameroon and Curacao. 26-man squad. So let's go through position by position, Mopper. There was certainly some surprise inclusions and a couple of exclusions that we thought might be in, but aren't. The goalkeepers, Patrick Beach, Paul Izzo, Maty Ryan. I said the other night that I thought Joe Gauci had done enough to get his spot back, but obviously Popovic is preferring Patrick Beach for that, let's say, that third spot, although Beach did play a couple of games recently. But I thought that Gauci would be a shout, but I would dare say that unless there are injuries, this is our three that are going to the World Cup.
Yeah. What about Joe Gauci's still in the quarterfinal? I think they played Chelsea. Maybe that had something to do with it. Not sure, but yeah, I don't know. Joe Gauci's still a shout, mate. I'd love to see him play a big game against Chelsea, and I think he's still got the opportunity there to profile himself. You're right. He's probably fourth in line now. 4 great keepers, mind you. But yeah, I hope Joe Gauci makes the squad. But look, all 4 keepers are very valid in what they're doing at the moment. And yeah, there's no doubt that we'll see these 3 keepers rotated in the 2 friendlies, obviously in the finale that we've got here before the World Cup squad gets announced.
Yeah, obviously Maty Ryan's in some fantastic form for Levante, and Paul Izzo doing well at Randers as well. Patrick Beach being a bit up and down with his form, but obviously very promising young talent. So no doubt that if not used in this series or in the World Cup, that he's definitely one for the future. Let's go to the defenders, mate. Aziz Bayic, Jordy Boss, Cam Burgess, Alessandro Ciccardi, Milos Degenek, Jason Guerrier, Lucas Harrington, how good's that? Jacob Italiano, Fran Karasic, and Kai Truan. What do you make of that group, mate?
Yeah, super excited for Lucas Harrington. What a story that it's becoming. We've seen how well he performed for Brisbane. Great move to America. He's just gone from strength to strength. So great recognition, I thought, and yeah, good exposure for him with the older defenders too. I just think it's going to be such a great experience for him, and definitely one blue chip for the future. I think the rest, Jacob Italiano has been injured in the last Socceroos camp, so it's great to see him back. He had a good contest against Canada and America, so it's good to see him back. And obviously with Lewis Miller missing as well, we've got Fran Karasic obviously back there as well. So he's been a bit unlucky the last couple of squads with his injury. So hopefully we get to see a bit of game time, because we haven't seen much of him in the last 12 months. And I think the rest speak for themselves. Aziz Bayic was always going to come back in at some point, and obviously Jordy Boss, speaks for themselves. And the rest of the central defenders have been there in the camps before, so I think it's pretty straightforward that defenders across the board. The only probably question was right back, and it's been answered with Italiano obviously coming back, and Karasic hopefully will stay fit and make the side and get out here this time, in good condition.
Jason Gary is an interesting one for me. I know that he has played under Popovic before and seems to be a bit of a favourite of Popovic. He's playing in Japan at the moment. They've got that tournament that's not that kind of in between tournament as they try to change their seasons. But yeah, I don't know. I thought that some others might be able to get a look in. Looking at some of the injuries, obviously Lewis Miller, long term, he's definitely out of the World Cup. Callum Elder currently injured at the moment. Popovic did speak about Harry Suter at length during the press conference post the announcement of the squad. Basically mentioned he's been back in training about 3 weeks and he'd had a conversation with Harry. They'd thought about him coming out for the squad, but thought that it was better that he stayed at Leicester and got some matches potentially with the under 21s. Got him plenty of training sessions as he continues to recover. Mentioned what we've mentioned before as well about the previous World Cup and him not having much preparation, but being able to hit the ground running. So he's certainly still in the plans for Tony Popovic, but I'm sure that he would like to see him getting some minutes under his belt. And then the ones not selected, Jack Iredale, surprised he wasn't had a look in as well. Kai Rolls. So they're two that kind of play on that left centre back. And from what I can kind of see, only Cam Burgess is kind of that natural left centre back. And then Hayden Matthews, quite limited game time at Portsmouth as well. So he was definitely the incumbent centre back coming through, wasn't he? And just seems to have dropped down the pecking order behind guys like Kai Truan and Lucas Harrington. And obviously that spot is Siccardi's at the moment. But yeah, interesting the players that missed out, particularly those left centre backs for me, mate.
Yeah, look, Hayden Matthews has hardly played this year, and it's been a major disappointment for him with setback after setback. I think Jack Iredale for me is probably the most disappointing. He's been the most in form central defender. He's been in great form over in Scotland. Yeah, he could be extremely disappointed not to make this squad because I think he's been sensational this year. But unfortunately, he's missed out. But yeah, like I think Hayden Matthews, I think once he gets his game time back and gets his fitness back, yeah, look, it might be too little, too late, but look, we know for the future he's going to be a great central defender. So unfortunately, the timing this year just hasn't worked out for him. He's just had too many setbacks.
All right, let's go to the midfielders. Aiden Hrustic, Riley McGree, Connor Metcalf, Paul Okon-Engsler, Aidan O'Neill, Alex Robertson, and Patrick Yazbek. Probably not too many surprises in there. I know there are a few players that can count themselves a bit unlucky, but probably no really ones out of the blue. Paul Okon-Engsler had a really good game for Sydney FC the other night against Melbourne City and has been quite consistent for the Sky Blues this season. So, yeah, it definitely one for the future. And then, yeah, there's a few of them. Good to see Alex Robertson get recalled again after his good form for Cardiff too.
Yeah, he's been in great form and has played a lot of football in the last few months, unlike his previous campaign where he's brought into camp again. But he's committed with his allegiance. He knows what he wants to do. He knows where he wants to play. His mindset's right. He's been in great form, Cardiff. If you've seen the goal on the weekend, you can see what he's going to offer. Really, X factor for me, whether he can really break in this side and get some minutes. The rest speak for themselves. Yazbek returns after missing a couple of camps, and he's been a stalwart for Nashville. And then Aidan O'Neill speaks for himself. Ocon, they seem to have a youngster in each one of the groups, don't they? Goalkeeper Beach, defender Harrington, and I think Ocon's the emerging talent in that midfield group. And Hrustic's been in great form as well, even though Heracles has been in relegation zone. And he hasn't really seen the best of him in the Socceroos, probably just adapting to that Poppers formation. I think with more football under his belt, which he's had this year, I think we'll see the better of Aiden Hrustic. And there's no two words about Riley McGree. He's just in sensational form. And Connor Metcalf's interesting. He's just come back from injury. Had limited return time for St. Pauli, getting 8 or 10 minutes here and there. So it'd be good to see his fitness. But for the Socceroos, he was probably one of our best players, I thought, last year. So I thought he had a really good breakout year with the Socceroos. So good to see him back after a bit of an absence with St. Pauli.
Yeah, definitely, mate. Just wanted to touch on your point there before because we had a great comment from Big Dog saying solid choices in Ocon, Engsler, and Beach, both future Socceroos superstars, in my opinion. Yeah, couldn't agree more about that, Big Dog. And I suppose your point, Mopper, about throwing Lucas Harrington into that mix as well. So plenty of young talent coming through. Let's look at the omissions from the midfield. Obviously, Cam Devlin still out through injury for heart. Based on his form before injury, I'd say he would have definitely been in there, but I think it's still a couple of weeks away and probably similar to some other players that Popovic mentioned in terms of just leaving them behind, and the better preparation for them is to stay at their club. Max Ballard, he mentioned in the press conference when asked why he was omitted, and basically said that he is aware of what Max Ballard can do, and he just wanted to look at some other options. I'm not sure how exactly to take that one, mate. You know,
They've all played these lot. There's no new options in there. Oh, apart from Robertson, I suppose.
yeah,
Everyone else is pretty similar. Like they played a long term, and Ocon broke through last year. So yeah,
yeah. I mean,
yeah, it was pretty
you can't pick everyone, but
true.
yeah, like he has performed really well in the games that he's played. So yeah, whether it is a case of, don't know, Popovic didn't want to bring him up this time, or yeah, he genuinely knows what he can do and has made his decision. I'm not sure, but yeah, Max Ballard.
But what about Jackson Irvine, Chief? Like, what's happened there?
Yeah, he mentioned Irvine in the press conference as well, basically saying that he's, just come back from that foot injury and again just wanted to keep him at the club, and thought, instead of flying all the way down to Australia, and wanted to continue to make sure he could monitor that situation and continue his game time for St. Pauli. So he did address that one in the press conference.
Yeah, fair
Ryan
enough.
T, the other one, but to be honest, since he's come back to Melbourne City, he hasn't shown the type of form that he had for Melbourne Victory, which saw him get picked in those Socceroos squads last time. So yeah, not a shock omission, but certainly one that's been in and around the Socceroos before. All right, the forwards, mate. This is interesting. Martin Boyle, Nestori Irinkunda, Denny Juric, Awa Mobile, Ante Suto, and Nishan Velupile. I'll take this one, mate. Martin Boyle, Irinkunda, expected those ones. Denny Juric, he has come back from injury, scored, I think, a goal recently in Poland. Personally, I would have liked to seen different options than Danny Juric. I know that he got called up, I think it was in November last year, got injured in the first training session. Popper did mention him and said he wanted to just get a proper look at him. So that's his justification. A1 Mobile, 30 years old, playing in the second division in Spain. Again, I think I would have preferred to look at some other options playing in those wide attacking positions. There's some great ones in the A League, and I didn't hear a question specifically about Mobile, but I'll be interested to know what he's thinking, because he hasn't been around the Socceroos squads for a while, whether it's his experience or he's seen something in his game that he really likes. But I definitely would have liked to have seen some young talent be picked in that spot. Ante Suto, he is obviously playing at Hibernian now with Martin Boyle and Jack Iredale. He moved across from the Croatian league. Popper mentioned him and said he was monitoring him while he was playing in Croatia. Thought he would struggle to adapt to the Scottish league, but had been impressed with what he'd been doing. He has been, particularly off the bench, he's been pretty pretty good in terms of in front of goal, putting the goals away. So I guess it's another player that he just wants to see. And obviously with Mo Toure, our preferred number 9, being out, he's looking at every option possible. And then Nishan Velupile, again, he was mentioned in the press conference of, I don't think Pop was even prompted about it, but mentioned that he's not in the greatest of form, but he's seen what he can do in the past, and hope he can do something for them in this window. So yeah, what did you make of the options that Popovic has picked there?
I knew he was going to pick Velupile. He was a great addition when in the early days of the qualifying when Popper took over and scored some crucial goals. I think it was against Vietnam. He scored a double. he's always been on Popper's radar. So just the timing of it with Falupale is now, and that's why I reckon he's been picked. Why not look at Suto? Touré's injury has opened this window, and we've seen him commit to the Socceroos. So why not have a look? That makes complete sense. Martin Boyle-Rukunda, we already know the reasons there. But Mobile and Jurek, jury's out on that one for me. I'm not sure why Mobile's in this squad. It makes no sense to me. And that's no disrespect to the player. I think he's had his moments and opportunities in the past, but really, I think there are so many other options that we should be looking at. But that's just a personal thought. And Juric, yeah, window out on that. Like you said, he wanted to have a look at him last time, so I assume that's the reason why he wants to have a look at him this time. But I think we've missed the opportunity again with Sapswood. I just do not understand what he has to do. But he has been in better form in the early part of the Scotland Premier League. He's kind of dropped off a little bit, but I still think it's a great window to bring him in and have a look. If you want to have a look, then wouldn't he be the type of player that you're looking for? Obviously not, though. Yeah, and even Max Caputo and some of the Newcastle players I would have thought would have been the X factor or one of the bolters that I thought he would have had the opportunity to really have a look at. But I just not sure about the Mobile selection. I think I can't see him going to the World Cup. So why has he picked him? I just don't understand, and I don't understand the way we play either. Because isn't he like a natural winger or something? We play 2 10s and a target man 9. So like, I just don't understand even the formation where he even fits in. But anyway, maybe a wing back or something. I don't know, but yeah, it's an interesting one. Only Popper knows, and yeah, and I don't mean to be harsh on Mobile because I know he can play football on that, but yeah, it's just out of the blue for me.
It's interesting what you're saying about the wing back spot because he was quizzed about the right back spot in particular. Obviously, Lewis Miller being out, and obviously he's got options there that have been picked in the squad, but he also didn't dismiss the idea of playing and one of the more attacking players in that right back spot. So it would be interesting to see, not necessarily Mobile, but if one of the other more attack minded players might find themselves in that right back spot. So that could be very interesting. Looking at the forwards, obviously injured Mohamed Touré, Nick D'Agostino, maybe a bit of a long shot, but was called up not too long ago. And then not selected, Mitch Duke, Marcus Eunice, Apostolos, Stamatolopoulos, and Zach Saps for me. But as you mentioned, I would probably throw in a couple of those Newcastle Jets boys, potentially in those spots like a Clayton Taylor or an Eli Adams as well. So, yeah, there were probably some options there I thought could have been picked in front of the ones that Popovic has picked in that squad. I just wanted to grab another question from Noel, who said, what do you think of Popper's comments regarding Segacic? So he did get quizzed on Segacic, which we thought he obviously might. The first one he kind of deflected away. He just said, players made the decision and didn't really go into detail about any conversations that had been had. He continued to get pressed about, even asked if things don't work out with Croatia, if he would welcome him back into the Australian team, and he kind of said, lots of hypotheticals and ifs and buts in that, but just wished him well. Got a bit defensive when asked, kind of on the line of thinking of, have you done enough to secure him for the Socceroos, or have you done enough to convince him to stay? Because there was also mentioned the lack of selection for Christian Valpardo as well, who they've obviously spent some time speaking to over in Italy as well. But yeah, on the Segacic thing, Popovic felt that he'd given him an opportunity, called him into the Socceroos squad at the age of 21, and he just thought from his opinion, and he did say, maybe I'm a bit old school, but in his opinion, that's your taste of what's to come, and you go back to your club and you fight for it until you deserve, or until you've earned your spot in the team, or you've earned your cap. So yeah, he was quite defensive about his role in Adrian Segacic obviously choosing to play for Croatia. So yeah, interesting. We got some bits and pieces, Mopper, that we kind of hoped for, some kind of description of how it all went down, not the finer details, obviously, but he certainly was quizzed on it at least 3 or 4 times from the journalists at the press conference.
Yeah, it's just a shame, isn't it? I don't know what's broken down, but yeah, obviously there's more to it than we'll ever know, and maybe one day a story will come out and we'll all be emotionally aware of what's happened. But yeah, it's just disappointing, isn't it? It just doesn't sit well with me the way it's been done, and probably if it wasn't for the other players and the trips to Italy and all that, that's contradicted some of the statements that. I think he's created a bit of a grey area for himself in his statement of the shirt and all that kind of stuff when, yeah, just contradicted himself. And I think that's why, people are confused. Well, I get that Popper's, you've got to earn the shirt and this is respect and all that kind of stuff, but it clearly wasn't sold strong enough if that was the case, because like I said, the key moment for me was, when he completely left him out of the squad. That's why pick him in the first place if you want to leave him completely out of the squad? And just, as I said, there's obviously something broken down there, and yeah, it's just a shame there's not clarity on it from both sides. But it's history now, isn't it? And we're just got to move on. And yeah, we wish him all the best. And yeah, just again, I can't reiterate how much I think that we just really played this card really poorly, I think, and whether people like him or not, 21-year-old, yeah, the picture obviously wasn't clear, was it?
No, I think, as I said on Sunday night, I think it's just the X factor, game breaker type, can create something out of nothing, and I just don't think we have a whole lot of those players. But yeah, I guess we need to move on. We need to look at who's been called up and what we've got from this point on. So these games, Friday 27th of March, Australia versus Cameroon, and then Tuesday 31st of March, Australia versus Curacao. So these players, particularly the ones in Europe and America, will go play this weekend, and then I'll be headed down to Sydney for the first game in Sydney. Yes, but down to Sydney for that game against Cameroon. So very exciting times, and can't wait to see the Socceroos back in action, and certainly excited for some of the call-ups and some of those other ones. I'm so excited to see how Popovic mixes some of those in. All right, Mopper, let's talk through a bit of action that's happened since we recorded on Sunday night. Do you want to take us through early Monday morning?
Yeah, mate. Well, it started with Geordie Boss created the most chances, including an assist in the 90 minutes as Feyenoord beat Excelsior 2-1 to remain second. So Feyenoord looking to wrap up some Champions League prospects there. Heracles suffer a 4-0 loss to AZ Alkmaar and 8 points from safety. It looks doom and gloom there now for Heracles. Hrusic again plays 90 minutes and Bosnowski starts, but he's pulled at half-time in a disappointing results for Heracles. Max Ballard's team played, obviously Ballard played 90 minutes, but they got hammered as well, 6-0 by Go Ahead Eagles, in not a good result for them either. It's not looking good for our couple of Aussies, 3 Aussies there that we have down the bottom. 3 minutes off the bench for a grand goal for Sparta Prague. Big 5-2 win over Slovakia, and that's a name that possibly could have been recalled that we didn't hear of too, grand goal. And one of Mopper's little favourites, young Tilly player, Alana Murphy, played 90 minutes as her Forest go down 1-0 to Palace, but great to see her getting lots of game time there. Sassuolo in Italy go down 3-0 to Inter with Jacinta Gelabacci and Jess Nash both getting game time off the bench. It was very interesting, Carpenter's comments about all these competitions still going while the Asia Cup's on, and the disappointing FIFA schedule for that. So I believe she's 100% right with that one. I know I skipped over that result, but I think the girls are playing. It should be a FIFA window, but anyway, we'll talk about that more another day. On Tuesday, we see Maty Ryan make an amazing double save, another one before conceding a late equaliser. Well, Lavane's done that a few times, shot themselves in the foot, and they drew 1-1. And the unfortunate thing was Rayo Vallecano only had 10 men, and the result now has them 5 points from safety. So again, that's 2 games in a row where they've conceded in the last minute. So, dropped 4 points there, Levante, and that would have put them 1 point behind. But as we said, it's history now. Josh Nisbet, who's been playing in great form, he played 90 minutes for Rota JC as they have an upset loss to Vitesse, but still remain in the last playoff spot in the Dutch second division. So we'll be cheering on Rota to hold on to that playoff spot and hopefully get a chance. Big win for Callum Elder's Derby, even though he's missing 6 weeks with a knee injury. They beat Portsmouth 1-0 and now 3 points from the playoffs. And I did say last week I thought Wrexham was flying and out of control, but the Derby and like you said before, Watford making their way back up there. So 3 points off now. No Aussies in action for Pompey either, who are just 1 point above the relegation zone. So that's a bit of a risk for them with a lot of our boys in the Pompey side. In the A-League, we've seen Melbourne City come back from obviously their disappointing Asia in the previous week. They beat Sydney FC and they've bounced back and won 1-0 with the only goal in the match going to Max Caputo. Again, strong header from a corner. City dominated, creating so many chances, but just managed the one. The loss for Sydney FC means their chances of winning the plate are pretty much gone. Melbourne City, they're back in the frame now for finals after a really disappointing few months. 3 points behind the Mariners with two teams facing each other in a make-up game early April. Might be the deciding game in what could be a fight for the finals. All right, Chief, what about Wednesday's action? Do you want to cover that one?
Yeah, mate, I called this one on Sunday night, and it came about. Can Pupion's ADO Den Haag secure promotion to the Eredivisie with a 1-0 win over Jong FC Utrecht? Pupion played 75 minutes in this one and has played 1,894 league minutes this season, contributing 7 goals and 1 assist. So obviously, since his move from Brighton, getting plenty of game time, which is exactly what you want for our young players. So we've obviously been tracking Pupion all throughout the season. ADO Den Haag went flying out of the blocks and they've held quite a significant lead at the top of the league for quite a while. And it was only a matter of time until they got promoted to the Eredivisie. But how cool is this, mate? Like, going to be able to watch, we might have a few dropping out of the Eredivisie, but to see Cam Pupion from where he's been at Brighton, tried to bide his time there and has gone out and now played a pretty big role, I think, in terms of getting his team promoted up to the Eredivisie, and looking forward to seeing him get his chance in that division next season.
Yeah, look, really smart move, wasn't it? Like, he was in the books of Brighton and, all the bright lights of the Premier League, but just picked a smart club to develop and learn from and play football. You're not going to get any better unless you play football, and he's made a really smart decision, and he's picked a good club, and now they're going to be in Eredivisie next year, and, they'll be playing, and he's only going to get better from this performance, and you know what? I haven't heard his name mentioned for the Socceroos, but I'll tell you what, if he keeps up this form next year, he won't be too far off.
Yeah, I think Asian Cup, if he starts well in the Eredivisie next year, you have to be a chance of that Asian Cup spot. And look, we spoke about Archie Goodwin on Sunday night, and what was it, 141 minutes? And you compare that to almost 2,000 minutes for Cam Pupion. So these are the types of kind of footballing decisions that we were talking about the other night, where and Pupion suffered the same when he was at Brighton. He was getting, a couple of League Cup minutes here and there, or maybe one Premier League appearance, trying to break through at a bigger club. And as I said, he's dropped down a level and can't wait to see what he might be able to do in the Eredivisie next season. So that's really cool.
Yeah, really good news.
Further, on Wednesday, Watford impressively beat Wrexham 3-1 to keep their playoff hopes alive. Nestori Irankunda plays 72 minutes in this one and provides an assist for the second goal. They're now 5 points off Southampton in 6, who have taken that spot off Wrexham. We have to stop going so early, Mopper. We'll have to just cool our jets a little bit.
I've put the jinx. I've jinxed them. I've jinxed them on Sunday. I do apologise to the Wrexham fans.
All right, down in League One, Joe Gauchi's Port Vale lose 3-2 to Blackpool after leading 2-1 into the second half. Cardiff go down 2-0 to Wickham with Alex Robertson playing 62 minutes. They remain second despite winning only one of their past 4 games. I think I've got about an 8-point gap to third. So still looking okay, but I think 8 points, 8 games to go in League One. So they're going to want to get that one across the line pretty quickly if they can. And Rafael Borges Rodriguez plays 90 minutes as his Wigan pick up an important point as they remain 1 point from safety. So yeah, he's obviously only on loan there this season, but I think he'll want to be doing his best to keep them out of the relegation zone. And then we had a match in the A-League Women's as well on Wednesday night. Top of the table clash, which ended 0-0 between Melbourne City and Adelaide United. Obviously just probably the best result for Adelaide United to keep some pace with Melbourne City. I think they've still got 1 game in hand, but can't quite catch them if they win that one. But they're certainly just hanging around. And I saw that Fiona Warts from Adelaide United has just been sold in the last couple of days as well. So she's been in some good form for them this season. It'll be a big miss, but we wish Fiona Warts all the best in her overseas endeavours.
Yeah, absolutely. Great move, and go for it. You've definitely got the talent to go far. So good luck.
All right, mate. That might do us for tonight. Big show, lots of things to talk about. Thank you, everyone, for your questions. They were fantastic. We really do appreciate all the contributions and all the feedback. Of course, everything is building to Saturday night, the Asian Cup final between the Matildas and Japan. You're obviously heading out there, Mopper. You'd be very excited.
Oh, this is going to be a classic. Hey, I'm so excited about this. What a final, Matildas Japan. We all thought that when we started this tournament, Matildas would play Japan in the semi-final, and you would have seen some very disappointed Eastern seaboarders when it went over to the West, because obviously they would have thought that it would have been on the other side. But mate, it's worked out better, and you've probably got your best 2 teams in the competition. They're in the final, and it's going to be a blockbuster. What a test for the Tillies, and what a opportunity it is to get some much needed silverware. Wouldn't it be great for him to lift the trophy and really ramp home women's football with a great message? And hopefully a lot of great things will continue to flow on from it, which we've seen from the Matildas campaigns of not only the World Cup, but their history in the last 10 years, where they've really lifted their profile up to the highest of status in not only Australian football, but in the Australian all sports, and they've become one of the nations leading in this area. So, we'll be excited, and I've got no doubt there'll be a massive audience for this. And, it's going to be an absolute cracker. Can't wait.
An Asian Cup on home soil against one of your biggest rivals doesn't get much better than that, mate. Look forward to the game. You go and enjoy yourself out there, and we'll be back on Sunday night as usual to obviously review the Matildas versus Japan game in the Asian Cup final, and then talk through all the other action that's going on. Thanks everyone for listening. Thanks Mopper for your time. We'll be back on Sunday, but in the meantime, enjoy your football.
All the best, everyone. Go the Tillies.